Okay, so basically this is me a hip mobility video, because I feel like that's a better way to think about it than just flexibility, because mobility means that you can move, you can functionally and actively move in a further range, and just like being able to move without like any strength behind it, kind of. But it's really important to roll out and have supple, basically like soft tissue for whatever you're trying to stretch out. So try to roll out each side individually, or each like hip. So lean onto one side so that there's more weight, and you're basically rubbing it out harder and therefore a little bit better. Just kind of rotate, try to get like everywhere from here to the outside as much as possible. And this should be in addition to like rolling out your entire leg. So I would do each side like twice. So like there's like this muscle pouch kind of between like where this upper hip bone is and like where your leg meets it. That one tends to get tight for me, as well as more towards the middle, and like just kind of move around and see where it feels the most tight, and that's kind of like where you want to focus your rolling out on. And then also, because the hips are connected to your lower back, it's important to roll that out as well so that it's a little bit more loose and you can have like a little bit more mobility or suppleness to create mobility. For that kind of stuff, I usually lean on one side and then do the other side, because if you're just like there in the middle, you're not going to really rub it out as well. So if you create angles and see what's sore and target those sore spots, that's how you're going to loosen them up more. So it's good if it hurts. It's a fucking foam roller, so it's not gonna like injure you. And then so it's kind of a shortened version, but once you've created that suppleness in your muscles, our hips tend to get a little bit misaligned. So to try to self-align it first, I usually try to stretch out my lower back. So I'll lay down on my back, legs bent. Take whichever side feels tighter. You can do both sides, but usually my right side gets tighter. So I let my legs drop to my left side, and then I lay down on my side. So I usually start on my back because this makes sure that everything's aligned. So what you're gonna start off by doing is the leg on top. You're gonna push you're gonna reach your knee forward as much as possible. So like pretend someone handles here and you're trying to move this forward, but not don't like extend your hip too much. Just like try to push it out as much as possible while keeping it in line. And then you reach over, but usually grab your rib to make sure that you do it correctly. And you're gonna reach over or look over your shoulder. And then while pushing your knee forward, and then extend your arm outward. And you should feel the stretch in your lower back. So, depending how tight your back feels, a couple times, about 10-20 seconds each side. And that's a good one for your lower back. And then another way to align your hips, this is usually done by someone else, but I find that it's still effective by just doing it myself. Not as effective, but it still helps. So you can have your legs bent like this, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna put your forearm between both of them, and then keeping your arm firm. So like on a flex that, you're gonna push up against it with your lower leg and then push down, And what this is supposed to do is like basically flex your hip back into position. And you're gonna do that for about 20 seconds. Do it as hard as you can. Just gonna shorten it for the sake of the video. I like to do both sides because I can't really check that well which hip is out of line. I usually know it's my right one though, but I still do both sides. Great, and then do that like twice. And so now you should have created some suppleness to be able to stretch out properly and have your hips in the right position or closer to the right position. So I like to start with what I learned in sports medicine before doing like any deeper stretches. I'm gonna start on your knees and get in a lunge position. Oh, I think it's weird, but what you're gonna do is keep your hips tucked in, keep them straight. Don't let it get out of position. Like maybe like your torso is maybe facing the wrong way or like anything. And basically like as if you were going straight from this to this. Keeping your hips straight forward, flexing your butt if necessary, and keeping your core engaged. And honestly, the neutral position should be enough stretch. If you don't feel it in this position, honestly, you're probably not doing it right. So hold that for about 30 seconds. If you want, even if you don't feel the stretch already, extend your arms upward. Feeling it all right here. That's where I feel it. And then do both sides. So once you do both sides, I do that about 30 seconds each side, like twice. I don't know, I usually do everything twice. You can do it 3 times, that's usually a magic number. The rest of these order doesn't matter that much, but another one I like to do that always gives a good stretch. You start like on your hands and knees, and then you extend your knees outwards. I guess this is like a more intense butterfly. And you're gonna lower your arms and kind of lay back, or lay down, if you will. And to really feel a stretch, or to feel more of a stretch if you don't already feel in this position, you're gonna sit back as far as possible without getting hurt. And just go until a comfortable, a little bit painful end point. And you should be feeling this more in your groin area, but when I stretch my hips, I just like to stretch the general area around it too, because if that's tight, then your hips can't get much looser than what the surrounding muscles are at. So it's really important to stretch your quads and your glutes, just honestly everything. Carefully go back into a neutral position. This next one is going to work on internal and external rotation. Pretty sure I sent you a video on this. I don't know if you watched it. But you're going to sit down on your butt, and you're going to have your feet, you're gonna position your feet in front of you wider than, or yeah, a bit wider than hip width distance. And you're just gonna let it fall to the side. Like to let it sit for a little bit, feel the stretch. You're gonna mostly feel it on the leg on top when it goes into internal rotation. Or that's usually what's tighter. Try to feel which side's tighter, and I usually let it sit a little bit longer on whichever side is tighter. So do that about 10 times or 5 times each side. Once you do that, you sit down and you put your leg in your whichever leg you decide to do first. I'm going to do my right side first. About 90 degrees in front of you, and then your back leg will be about 90 degrees behind you. And when you're doing this, you want to keep your hips as straightforward as possible, because if you let it go back, then you're not going to be stretching it as properly, or like in the right position that you want it to be in. So you can see that my knee's a little bit raised. What you want to do here is lean a little bit forward, wherever is comfortable, not too comfortable, and push your knee down for about 5 seconds, and then push down on your knee. Using your arm, you're going to push down on your knee, and with your knee, you're going to push upwards. So you're going to push up against it for about 5 seconds. So this is an active stretch, so it's going to create more mobility because your muscles are actually working while doing this. You're not just stretching them out and then letting them be loose. But I think when you do an active stretch, it's more long term. So that was longer than 5 seconds. But then you're going to reach a little bit more forward. You're going to notice you have a little bit more mobility. Your glute might be tight, and I feel this like kind of like down here too right now because I've been a little tight. Do the same thing, 5 seconds. And one last time. We should be able to go down further. And an important thing to keep in mind while doing this is that your back should be straight. So a way to ensure this is to keep your core tight and your chest upwards. But don't do it so much upwards that you're curving your back. Just keep it straight in a neutral position. So you should be able to go down further and push your knee down again for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, and then upwards for seconds. You're gonna want to do that on both sides. Let's get that. You can do it on you. So another one I like to do. Let's see. Okay, so this one is more yoga based. So you're gonna start in, it's called tabletop position. Make sure your hands are under your shoulders and your knees are underneath your hips. And what you want to do is you're gonna curl your feet underneath and you're gonna go into a down dog position. I might take you out in this position for a little bit. Stretch out the hamstrings and the calves. Then in whatever way feels comfortable to you. You can walk it out. During this, I always try to be really aware of what feels tight and stretch that out more. So it feels better, and then I usually try to push my hips up as far as possible. And so the first thing I'm gonna do is, whenever like you feel like I'm gonna do my left, lift my left leg up, open your hips, and you're gonna let, oh you can't see it. You're gonna lift your leg up and you're gonna open up your hip. You're gonna let your leg just hang out and it's gonna bend. What you're gonna wanna do is flex, squeeze your glute as much as possible. And you'll feel more of a stretch in your hip because that's opening it up more. Hold on for about 10 seconds and bring it back to neutral. You're not gonna put your leg down though. And you go into plank position. To control this, I usually hold it and then you're gonna put your foot, that's up, between your arms. And now, this is my left leg, so your right arm stays down. And you're gonna reach upwards, keeping your hips in place. Don't let your hips go out or don't let anything drop. Make sure that this plank position is being held. So the rest of your body is still straight. But when you reach this upward, it's basically just your upper body moving. Make sure your hips stay in place because that's what's gonna create the stretch. And so usually you can flex your butt and engage your core to do this and you reach upwards. Hold that for 5 seconds, reset, and then do it again. I usually reset because my hips can get tired and you don't want to overstretch it. So give it some breaks because it's already in a pretty big stretch just being in this position. So now you relax and bring going back up. I'm going to do one more hip opener. And then bring it back down. I'm going to do it on the other side again. I feel like yoga is a little bit harder at a time. So I'll just do this side again. I don't know, you can skip through it. Make sure you're breathing. So I'm gonna walk it out and then do the same thing again. Lifting my right leg upwards and then letting my hip open. So basically let that leg fall back. And then squeeze your glute. So you can stretch that hip even more. Bring it back to neutral. In plank position. And bring that foot between your arms. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing again. This time, keep your left arm down and then reach your right arm upwards. Make sure your hips are staying in place as much as possible. And then if you don't feel this stretch enough, I personally feel enough, but if you don't feel this stretch enough, I felt some on my right. But what you can do is you can drop your leg outward and then drop your knee too. This creates a deeper stretch. And then also lower this down, lower your upper body down, and reach upwards. And that will do a deeper stretch. So once you advance past the other position, you can do this one. a couple times. When you get out of these deep stretch positions, you want to be careful and get out of it the way you got into it. So I bring my arms back down and back into plank position. Do one final squeeze, and then just down, back down, down dog. Another hip mobility one sitting like this, and your legs out wide, keeping your chest up. Another way you can do that is by holding your arms to like basically hold you up, holding them out and keeping your knees up. You'll definitely feel this in your hips. And lean from side to side. More active stretching, which I prefer. Well, I mean, I like passive stretching too, but I think active stretching for like exercising is just really good because you strengthen your muscle while stretching it. So that transfers better to your workouts. Yeah, so basically being careful when you're getting out of those stretches. That's pretty much it. Good luck.